That's a good question. What is women's studies? All right. Women's studies to me is, I mean, first and foremost, it's about activism, and that's a lot of where it really came from. But now that it's an academic discipline, it's about really bringing consciousness to issues of inequality and oppression and an awareness to a lot of these issues. I think more so than any other academic discipline, women's studies really changes you from the ground up.
Because you just have a better understanding of people, where you are in the world, and a better understanding of the fact that the world doesn't actually revolve around you.
I arrived here in 1997. I was coming from New Mexico, where I had taught American Studies, so it was very exciting to me. I had always been incorporating feminist perspectives into my work, but I was very happy to join the new MA program in Women's Studies. That was the first year we accepted MA students, and Dr. Biokubetz and I came at the exact same time. That now we're the Center for Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies, recognizing that the field is always growing and transforming and taking in more subject areas.
The Center for Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies gives students the opportunity to study so many diverse topics. We look at areas like race, age, class, immigration, the global south versus the global north. There are all sorts of issues that you can look at, and especially for people who maybe don't consider the master's as an option for them, but maybe want to consider our other option, which is the graduate certificate. A lot of these courses are really applicable for other areas that you study.
One of my favorite things about women's studies courses compared to other courses at FAU has been that they're greatly discussion based. And I think that helps because you're not just listening to the professor's opinion or the opinions of the authors that you're reading about, but you're actually talking with other students in class, you're seeing their opinions.
The Women's Studies department made it so that I realized I wanted to be the kind of professor and instructor that looked at my students and valued them for all their complexity. We have to value who we are, and that bleeds into everything we do and everything we think. We have to genuinely recognize that there's other ways of seeing things.
I was a little skeptical at first because I was like, women's studies, it's gonna be radical and boring and just all this feminist stuff, but what grabbed me is how it caused me to think so differently. I have like a different perspective, it seems like, about everything. I'll be watching a movie and suddenly I'm analyzing the characters differently, and it's really opened up my understanding to the way the world works and how it's so male dominated, but it doesn't cause me to hate men at all. It just helps me to see the world for what it is.
Gender studies classes really challenge students to acquire a very different way of looking at problems than how they have been socialized to look at problems.
The wonderful thing that I found about this department is that it doesn't make you choose something. It really gives you a lot of wonderful options and allows you to find what your passion is going to be.
My areas are issues of popular culture studies, issues of spirituality, issues of environment and ecofeminism and environmental justice, as well as men's violence against women and the ways that coercion on the overt physical to the psychological levels are so much a part of keeping male domination in place, and how women resist and fight back against that.
I am actually specifically working on creature feature films and sexism and violence in them, and sexualized violence in horror films.
Whatever it is that you're interested in, you can choose to think about that with gender theory.
People ask me, what will you do with this degree, as if what on earth could you ever do? And I say, well, I really have to try to narrow it down because I have so many things that I want and could do with this degree. But some things would be working with national or international organizations that are advocating for change, like Equality Now or Family Violence Prevention Fund, working in a women's center, or as a Title IX coordinator.
They decided that we needed to do more on campus to support LGBTQA people, and that the best thing we could do at this time would be to create a resource center, because most other universities have a service like this. And so I was chosen to also be the grad student to run the center and open it up for students to come to this safe place and talk about their experiences or learn more.
How am I using my Women's Studies certificate? And the reality of it is, yes, I'm using it every day as a professor, or as an instructor, but I'm really using it every day as a human being, right? Like, it informs everything I do. That said, I could have used it in a million ways, and meaning I could have become a lawyer with it, I could have done anything with it, but what it really does for me is it makes me a better anything. I'm a better person.
It takes up where everything else has left off. So all of the women, all of the people of color that have been left out of history because they didn't make the perfect story for a history book is what we focus on. So in a lot of ways, I feel like we're kind of rewriting the world, rewriting what people are going to know in future history books.
Just last month I met with a client together with another female attorney at the firm, and we discussed her estate plan and her will and what she wanted to do as far as her children and as far as her health care and long-term care. And at the end of the appointment she stopped us and she said to us, you know, it's so nice to see two women attorneys helping me today, because I was a secretary all my life and I always wanted to be a lawyer, but it just wasn't done in those days, and I'm so glad that it's done now and that you're helping me. I don't think you can really empower people till first off they're aware that they're disempowered and that they have the power to change that. And I think that's one of the things that is so important about women's studies, that you give them that awareness and you give them that empowerment.
Women's studies represents, we could say, the 99%. All the voices of those who've been othered and marginalized, with women as that something of a paradigmatic group representing that. But it brings back, it really reorders it. It does reorganize the way we look at the world. And it doesn't mean we all emerge looking at the world the same way, but we have to take a great more into account, including the voices, the experience, the perspectives of all those who've been othered, silenced, and marginalized are now brought into the center.
Her shirt says, "This is what a feminist look like."